I paid their rent for 10 months after my son lost his job. One night, I showed up with groceries. My daughter-in-law met me at the door and said, "We're not taking handouts anymore. And don't just drop by, it's disrespectful." I stood there, bags in hand, while they laughed behind the door. I drove home in silence, and then I did something that left them desperate. I'm Marlene. I'm 62 and retired. I worked 33 years as a receptionist at Bloomington Hospital and picked up evening janitorial jobs on the side when my boys were growing up. My husband, Jeff, died when I was 31. He was hit by a drunk driver on his way home from work. One second he was there, the next, gone. Caleb, my youngest, was just 4 at the time. I raised my boys the best I could. We didn't have a lot, but I made sure they had what they needed. Birthdays. School clothes. Warm meals. I didn't spoil them, but I didn't let them go without either. I never dated again after Jeff. Honestly, my boys became my entire world. Caleb was always different. Smart, funny, but careless. He'd forget things constantly. Left his backpack at home. Lost his wallet 3 times in high school. He never finished anything. He started college at IU, quit after 1 semester. Then he worked at a car wash, a warehouse, a delivery service. Never stuck with any of them. 5 years ago, he came over and said he met someone online. Her name was Tasha. I didn't say much, just smiled and said I hoped she was nice. 3 months later, he said they were moving in together. 2 months after that, they were married. I barely knew her. She never made an effort. She looked at me like I was someone to be tolerated. I wasn't included in any planning. They had a courthouse wedding. I didn't see a single picture until a week later when Caleb posted one on Facebook. I cried that night. Not because I wanted some big event, but because I realized how far away he already felt. When Alina was born, everything changed, for me. I fell in love the second I saw her. This tiny little thing with Caleb's dark hair and Tasha's nose. I offered to help. I drive across town to drop off diapers, formula, wipes. I made casseroles. I never stayed too long, but I was always there when they needed something. Caleb would hug me, thank me. Tasha would give a half smile if I was lucky. Never said thank you once. Not in words. Then came COVID. Caleb lost his job at the warehouse. Tasha had been doing hair out of their living room for cash, but that dried up too. Caleb called me in tears. They were 2 weeks behind on rent, the landlord was threatening to file. I told him not to worry, I'd cover it. That first $950 was hard for me. I had enough in savings, but I was already retired and living on a budget. Still, I figured it was temporary. I told myself it was just until he got back on his feet. But then came month 2. Then 3. Every month I sent money. No questions asked. Some months I added extra for their electric. I paid for Alina's birthday gifts, clothes, even some groceries through online orders. I dropped off things constantly, diapers, baby wipes, snacks, formula. I even picked up a part-time job cleaning offices at night again just to keep supporting them. In those 10 months, I sent them over $9,000. Never once did Tasha call me. Never once did she say thank you. Caleb would text a quick, "Got it," when I sent rent. That was it. But I kept doing it. Because I loved them. Because I couldn't stand the idea of my granddaughter going without. Then came December. Snow was falling heavy that night. I had just done my usual grocery haul and picked up extras for them: pasta, chicken, milk, snacks for Alina, baby wipes, toilet paper. I didn't call ahead. I never really did. I just knocked on the door and waited like always. Tasha opened it. Her face said it all. She wasn't glad to see me. She didn't smile. She looked tired, annoyed. She looked down at the bags in my hands, then looked back at me like I was something stuck to her shoe. "We're not taking handouts anymore," she said flatly. I was stunned. What? She shifted her weight, arms crossed. We don't want this anymore. It's getting weird. Caleb says you're always just dropping by, and it's disrespectful. We're adults. We don't need your charity. I stood there, frozen, holding those bags like a fool. Behind her I could see Caleb on the couch, drink in hand. There was a woman laughing next to him. Tasha glanced over her shoulder and smirked. Then looked back at me. I think it's time you gave us some space, she said. And then she shut the door. Just like that. I stood there on the porch, in the cold, snow still falling. My arms hurt from holding those bags. My chest hurt more. I didn't say anything. I didn't knock again. I turned around, walked down the steps, and drove home in silence. No music. No crying. Just silence. The next day, I made coffee. I sat at the kitchen table and started pulling up my online bank records. I wrote down every transaction. Every rent payment. Every Amazon order for their household. Every grocery delivery I sent to their address. I highlighted the total. $9,680. That's what I had given them in 10 months. Rent. Bills. Food. Gifts. I stared at that number, and something in me snapped. They didn't want my help? Fine. I stopped everything. No more money. No more groceries. No more rides. No more babysitting. I stopped calling. I stopped texting. I stopped answering. I made one final move, called their landlord. I told him I would not be paying rent anymore. He paused and then said, "Yeah, I figured. They're already behind." Of course they were. I went online and filed a small claims case. I knew I probably wouldn't win. I didn't care. I just wanted the message to be loud and clear. They wanted to treat me like a stranger. Then they'd see how cold the world really is without me. I didn't tell them. I didn't warn them. I just disappeared. They had no idea what was coming. I thought maybe it would take a few days. A week at most. But 2 whole months went by. Nothing. Not a call. Not a text. I blocked them on Facebook. They didn't try to reach out. I figured maybe Caleb had really meant it. Maybe he wanted to cut me out. Maybe Tasha had gotten in his head too deep this time. Then the letter came. A pink envelope in the mailbox with sloppy handwriting I didn't recognize. I opened it and immediately recognized the stick figure drawing, Alina. She'd drawn a picture of Grandma with a heart. There was a note at the bottom, scribbled by Caleb, I assume. Alina misses you. Maybe we can talk soon. That would have melted me a few months ago. But not now. They used her. They put her little drawing in that envelope to tug at my guilt. But I wasn't falling for it this time. I didn't answer. 3 more weeks went by. Then, out of the blue, my neighbor Jenny called me. She works part-time at the food pantry on Walnut Street. "You're not gonna believe who I saw this morning," she said. Caleb and his wife. They were in line. Looked rough. I didn't say much. I thanked her and hung up. Later that night, my phone rang. It was Caleb. I let it go to voicemail. "Mom, please. Things are bad. I'm sorry about what happened, okay? Just, we need help. We're getting evicted. Alina's been sick, and we're trying our best. Please." I listened to it twice. Then I played it again. Still, I didn't call back. A few days later, I got an email from someone I didn't know. It was a woman named Rachel, one of Tasha's old clients. Apparently, Tasha had borrowed $500 from her to buy supplies, and never paid her back. Rachel wanted to know if I had a way to reach them, because they weren't returning her calls either. I didn't answer. Then came the big one. I got a visit from CPS. It was a weekday morning. I was folding towels when I heard the knock. 2 women on the porch, one holding a clipboard. Are you Marlene? One asked. I nodded. We received a tip that your granddaughter Alina may be living in an unsafe environment. We understand you're the grandmother. My heart dropped. Apparently, a neighbor at Caleb's apartment complex had heard fighting, screaming, and a child crying for hours. There were also reports of drug use in the unit. The officers asked if I had contact with the family. I told them the truth. No, I hadn't seen them in nearly 3 months. The caseworker looked concerned. Would you be willing to take temporary guardianship if needed? I said yes without thinking. 2 days later, I got a call from the hospital. Alina had been brought in with a fever, and Tasha had left her there, saying she couldn't stay because she had a hair appointment to make. Let that sink in. She left her sick daughter alone at the ER. Hospital staff tried calling Caleb. No answer. They called me next. I rushed there so fast I didn't even change out of my house slippers. When I got to the hospital room, Alina was crying. Hot forehead, flushed cheeks, begging for juice. I held her, rocked her, promised her it would be okay. Then I signed the forms. Emergency custody. Just like that, she was mine. Not officially, not yet. But she came home with me. I fed her soup. I gave her a bath. I read her stories. She slept in my bed, curled up like she used to when she was little. 3 days passed. Still no word from Caleb. Or Tasha. Then, finally, the call came. It was Caleb. His voice was panicked. Where's Alina? We went to the hospital and they said she's not there. I took a deep breath. She's with me. He went silent. Then, you took her? You had no right. I laughed. No right? Your wife left her there like a stray dog. You didn't answer your phone. CPS was called. The hospital handed her over to me because no one else came. He started yelling. Blaming me. Saying I was trying to steal his child. I didn't argue. I just said one thing. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for her. And until you two prove you can take care of her, she's staying right here. Then I hung up. What came next? Court. Lawyers. A custody fight. But let me just say, it wasn't me on the defense. It was them. And they were about to find out what it really feels like to lose everything. I thought the worst was behind me once Alina was safe. But I was wrong. The storm had just started. After I took emergency custody, I got a letter from the court. Tasha had filed for full custody 2 days later. Not Caleb, Tasha. She claimed I was kidnapping her daughter and interfering with their family structure. She even tried to say I was mentally unstable. That I had control issues and a savior complex. I brought that letter to my lawyer, Dean Harper. He's in his 70s, a tough old man who's done custody and family law in Monroe County for 40 years. I handed him every bank statement, every text, every receipt. When he saw the rent trail, he whistled. Almost 10 grand? Lady, you practically kept them breathing. He filed our response within 24 hours. The hearing was set for 3 weeks later. That entire time, Alina stayed with me. She was sick for about a week, bronchitis, they said, but she got better quick. Once she was eating normally again, I started noticing things. Real things. Her shoes were 2 sizes too small. She had bruises on her arms that she couldn't explain. She told me they used to lock her in her room when guests came over because she was too loud. She was 4 years old. I wrote it all down. Every word. Then, the week before the court hearing, another twist hit. My phone rang at 1:30 a.m. It was a number I didn't recognize, but something told me to pick it up. Mrs. Langston, a woman's voice said. This is Officer Trina Marks with Bloomington PD. Your son, Caleb Langston, has been arrested. My throat tightened. Arrested for what? Possession with intent to distribute cocaine and fentanyl. He and a female, Tasha Barnes, were picked up in a sting operation. Alina's name came up in our system as a minor in their care. When we saw your custody claim, we decided to call you directly. I couldn't breathe. Fentanyl. My son. The same kid I once held in a rocking chair when he had night terrors. The same boy who used to bring me dandelions from the yard. Caught with fentanyl. The next day, it was all over the local news. 2 arrested in drug bust, child previously removed from care. There were mugshots. Caleb looked hollow. Tasha looked wild-eyed, like she hadn't slept in days. The court hearing turned into something else entirely. Now it wasn't about custody, it was about permanent removal of parental rights. CPS filed a full report. The caseworker brought up everything: neglect, abandonment, drug exposure, and my full financial support of the child while the parents partied. But then, as if fate needed one more push, someone showed up to the hearing that I hadn't seen in over 20 years. Jeff's sister, my late husband's sister, Teresa. She walked into the courtroom in a gray suit, hair pulled back, with a folder in hand. She hugged me tightly before she sat down next to me. I saw the news, she said. I want to help. Back when Jeff died, she and I were close. But after she moved to Indianapolis and remarried, we drifted apart. Turns out she had been following the story since Alina went into the hospital. She was ready to testify if needed. Said she knew from her own short visits that Tasha was unstable and that Caleb had been using something for a while. She could smell it on his clothes months before. That day in court, something changed. The judge looked over everything. He saw my records, the proof of support. He saw the neglect reports. He saw the drug charges. And then he gave me full temporary guardianship pending the outcome of the criminal trial. Tasha screamed in court. Screamed that I had manipulated the whole thing. That I was trying to steal her child like a Lifetime movie villain. She had to be escorted out by deputies. Caleb didn't say a word. He didn't even look at me. Just stared straight ahead like nothing was real. The judge warned them both. If they didn't complete a drug treatment program and show 6 months of clean testing, they'd lose parental rights permanently. I knew what that meant. They wouldn't make it. But I wasn't done. Because there was still one more thing I hadn't told anyone. The money. The $9,680 I had spent wasn't just a footnote. It was part of a civil claim now. And I had filed it the same day I took Alina home from the hospital. They had laughed at me behind a closed door. Now they'd be choking on every unpaid cent. And I was only getting started. 3 months after the hearing, I sat in the front row of a courtroom and watched my son plead guilty. The deal was simple: 18 months in state prison, followed by mandatory drug treatment. Tasha didn't take the deal. She insisted the drugs weren't hers, and said the cops framed them. The judge wasn't impressed. She got 3 years. Both sentences included a no-contact clause with Alina. That part, right there. That's when I finally exhaled. But this story wasn't just about keeping my granddaughter safe. That was part of it, the most important part. But there was something deeper inside me. Something cracked when they shut that door in my face that cold December night. They laughed. They didn't just reject my help. They mocked me after taking almost $10,000, after I starved myself to stretch my savings, after I ignored every red flag because I wanted to believe my son would come around. They laughed. That laugh kept me up at night. So yes, I filed the civil suit. Some people might think that was petty. But I didn't care. It wasn't about getting the money back. It was about putting a price on betrayal. On entitlement. On the way they made me feel like trash on their porch. They didn't show up to the first court date. Probably thought it didn't matter. Big mistake. The judge issued a default judgment. $9,680 plus court fees. I filed liens on their bank accounts. Froze their joint savings. I even discovered that Tasha had a small checking account under her business name. That got frozen too. The woman who once mocked me for bringing groceries had to ask a public defender how to unfreeze her account so she could buy shampoo in jail. Meanwhile, Alina started to bloom. I got her into a good preschool. Teresa helped me set up a college fund. We took walks to the library. She started calling me Mama Marlene on her own. At night, she'd ask if I could leave the door open so the nice light can come in. I knew what she meant. She'd slept in dark, locked rooms for too long. One day while we were baking cookies, she asked me, "Why don't Mommy and Daddy come get me anymore?" I stopped stirring the dough. I knelt down and told her, because they're sick. And until they get better, they have to stay where people can help them. But you're safe now. You'll always be safe. She nodded. Then she licked the spoon and said, "Can we make more with sprinkles?" That was the moment I knew I did the right thing. But karma didn't stop with jail. After sentencing, word spread in our small town. Tasha's hair business was done. Her mugshot was still online. No one wanted her touching their heads. Her clients disappeared. Her reputation was garbage. Her sister, who used to brag about Tasha's independent hustle, posted a long Facebook rant about fake family and liars. I didn't even bother replying. Caleb wrote me one letter from prison. It was short. "I don't know who I am anymore. I'm sorry. But I'm also angry. I feel like you gave up on me. I know I messed up, but I'm your son." I read it 3 times. Then I put it through the shredder. I didn't write back. Because the truth is, I did give up on him. And I'm not sorry. I gave him everything I had for years. I gave until it hurt. And the second he thought he didn't need me, he let his wife slam the door in my face. He laughed. So no. I didn't owe him anything anymore. But Alina? I owed her the world. 6 months later, I got a knock on the door. A woman in a blue blouse holding a clipboard. CPS again, but this time, it was good news. The court had moved to make my guardianship permanent. No more temporary orders. No more check-ins. Alina was mine, legally. I cried for an hour. I stood in my kitchen with her little fingers wrapped around mine, and I realized something: revenge isn't always loud. It isn't always screaming or burning bridges. Sometimes revenge is quiet. It's letting someone destroy themselves while you protect what they never deserved. Tasha and Caleb lost everything. Their freedom. Their kid. Their money. Their pride. I gained something real. A second chance to raise a child with love, structure, and safety. Something Caleb had. But let slip through his fingers. Maybe I failed him. Maybe I should have drawn the line sooner. Maybe I was too soft. But in the end, I did the one thing I had to do. I chose the child. And I chose myself. That was my revenge. And it was worth every silent mile I drove that night with groceries in my hands and no one waiting on the other side of the door.